The longest tongue on the planet. What can a person with such a gift do? When people talk about human records, hardly anyone remembers the tongue. But it was this organ that became the reason for an incredible record that literally blew up the Guinness Book of Records. Just imagine, the length of the tongue reaches almost 4 inches. Such a gift belongs to Nick Stobel from California. His tongue turned out to be so long that he managed to surpass all contenders from around the world and officially make it into the famous record book. Amazingly, because of this unique feature, Nick has learned to do things with his tongue that others can't even dream of. He can easily touch the tip of his nose with the tip of his tongue and sometimes even reach his own chin. He doesn't need a mirror to brush crumbs off his face after eating. It's enough for him to run his tongue along his cheek or forehead. Amazingly, Nick plays unusual challenges with his friends and shows how he can twist his tongue into the most incredible shapes. On popular shows, his tongue was covered with a whole layer of chocolate cream, which he licked off in one motion. Even artists have approached him, asking Nick to paint a canvas with his tongue. Once he even became the star of an advertisement in Los Angeles, where he licked a giant plastic lollipop set up right in the middle of the street. Doctors studied this phenomenon thoroughly, took measurements, and found no abnormalities in the structure of his muscles or bone tissue. Everything turned out to be completely natural. It was simply a fortunate combination of genetic circumstances that gave Nick such a unique organ. Even scientists confirm that, from a health perspective, a long tongue does not interfere with life. On the contrary, it opens up many new talents and opportunities. And after all, such talents can be just as astonishing as other extreme records. Here is another story, for example, that stunned even the most experienced doctors and simply shocked the entire world. The story of Michelito, who entered the record books thanks to his bizarre gastronomic achievement, still amazes doctors and audiences around the globe. This Frenchman began eating unusual objects as a child. At first, it was broken glass jars and small mechanical parts. By his teenage years, Michel could easily eat a plate or a couple of metal nails in one sitting. How about some fried nails? I asked, do you want some fried nails? No? He set his first record when he ate an entire supermarket cart right in front of a stunned audience, breaking it into small pieces and swallowing them with pleasure. However, the most memorable moment was his truly shocking Gola-Reel single-seat Cessna airplane. Preparing for this record took almost 2 years. Every part, from tiny bolts to massive sheets of the fuselage, Michel broke into pieces using special tools. Every day, he treated himself to metal, drizzling the pieces with oil to make them easier to swallow and washing them down with plain water. Doctors monitored the condition of his stomach using X-ray machines, amazed that the metal hardly harmed his health at all. Official representatives from the Guinness Book of Records meticulously documented every stage until, over the course of nearly 2 years, Mitchell finished the last piece of the airplane. Altogether, this dish weighed almost 900 pounds of metal parts. Of course, his body is unique. Michel was diagnosed with a rare disorder that made the lining of his stomach and intestines exceptionally tough. Throughout his life, he ate dozens of bicycles, 7 televisions, several beds, and even a couple of computer processors. All these astonishing feats were officially documented and closely observed by specialists. But perhaps even more unusual records sometimes require not teeth, but strength, perseverance, and endurance. Jumping over a river on a motorcycle, a story of flying through the impossible. Among all records related to technology, a special place is held by the moment when a person challenged the law of gravity and attempted the impossible to fly over a river on a motorcycle. This story began in the summer of 1974, when American Evel Knievel decided to set a new record that would make headlines around the world. His goal was to jump over the Snake River in Idaho on a motorcycle. The distance between the banks exceeded 1,400 feet. To do this, a special platform with a launch ramp almost 80 feet high was built. The motorcycle used here was not quite ordinary. Engineers created the rocket bike SkyCycle X2 to handle such a distance. On the day of the jump, more than 40,000 spectators gathered. Everyone watched the preparations for the launch, while Evel Knievel himself donned a white jumpsuit with blue and red stars. He got on the motorcycle, strapped himself in tightly, and within a few seconds the engine started, launching the bike sharply upward along its trajectory. The SkyCycle sped over the river, accelerating to an incredible speed. According to the calculations, Evel was supposed to fly the maximum distance without touching the water. At the most climactic moment, when the motorcycle soared above the riverbed, one of the braking parachutes unexpectedly deployed prematurely. This abruptly slowed the entire flight, and the vehicle began to fall. Before the eyes of the crowd, the bike with Evel landed on the canyon slope just a few dozen feet from the water's edge. Despite the mishap with the mechanism, Knievel instantly became a worldwide sensation. His bravery, technical preparation, and incredible courage were officially recognized, and the very fact of the jump was entered into the record books. After this experiment, engineers thoroughly analyzed the bike's design to understand what could be improved in the future. Evel Knievel achieved the status of a cult hero in extreme sports, and his attempt is often called one of the most spectacular stunts of all time. But such records are not the limit of human imagination. There are also those in which the main role is played not by machines, but by a living cloud, thousands of biting and dangerous creatures that cover the daredevil's face like a helmet. If you imagine the strangest way to set a record, few things can compare to the idea of letting 20,000 bees completely cover your face. Such a feat was officially entered into the Guinness Book of Records and amazed not only fans of extreme shows, but also entomologists around the world. The main character of this challenge is Chen Bin from China, who in the early 2000s dared to undertake an incredible collaboration with thousands of insects known for their aggression and venomous stings. On the appointed day, Chen went to the apiary, where several hives with worker bees had already been prepared. Before the record attempt began, his body and face were coated with a special syrup to attract the maximum number of insects. When the hive was opened, the swarm quickly began to settle on his face, shoulders, and chest. Official Guinness judges closely monitored the number of bees, which not only had to crawl but completely cover the face without any gaps. For this, a large weighing container was used. Each load contained several thousand insects, which were then carefully poured onto the daredevil's head. In just a few minutes, Chen was hidden beneath a dense living mask. His eyes were half closed, his mouth barely visible, and only his nose served as a point for breathing. The weight of this entire helmet exceeded 25 pounds. And throughout all this, Chen did not show the slightest sign of fear. Doctors constantly monitored his condition, measured his blood pressure, tracked his pulse, and were ready to intervene at the slightest sign of an allergic reaction. The bees periodically stung his skin, but Chen stoically endured the pain, neither moving nor brushing away the countless insects. Guinness representatives timed the duration of contact with stopwatches. According to the rules, the face must be completely covered for at least 5 minutes. All of this took place under the flashes of cameras, while a team of beekeepers stood nearby, ready at any moment to sedate the swarm and remove the dangerous mask from the participant's head. After the challenge was completed, the bees were carefully removed using a special brush and smoke. A thorough weighing confirmed that there were just over 20,000 insects on Chen's face and upper body. The record holder himself got away with only a few stings and slight swelling on his cheeks. However, the doctors were amazed that after such extreme contact, his tests did not show any serious complications. Thus, the living bee helmet became another page in the history of human achievements, as well as an unusual example of how friendship with nature can sometimes take the most unpredictable forms. The next story will prove that sometimes the passion for records manifests itself in the most everyday things. For example, in the ability to assemble unusual collections that no one else would dare to gather. If anyone thinks that collecting is just about gathering stamps or old coins, they clearly haven't heard about the amazing record set by Jakub Klepacki from Poland. This man dedicated his entire life to one incredible goal: to assemble the largest collection of irons on the planet. It all began in the late 1950s, when Jakub accidentally found an antique cast iron weighing almost 10 pounds in the attic of his village hut. It was at that moment he decided he needed to find out just how many types of these household appliances existed. He began visiting flea markets, second-hand shops, and antique stores all across Europe. Every iron he found, Jakub carefully cleaned, restored, and recorded its entire history in a special journal. His collection grew rapidly. It included French irons from the Napoleonic era, Spanish charcoal models with curved handles, and even miniature children's versions made of bronze. The true pride of the collector became the unusual steam irons from London, powered by alcohol lamps, as well as American electric irons from the first decades of the 20th century, nearly a foot long. After 30 years, Jakub noticed that his house was literally turning into a museum. Shelves, cabinets, and even stair landings were filled with hundreds of irons. In the early 2000s, experts from the Guinness Book of Records came in person to count the exhibits. The verification took more than 4 days, and the result amazed even the most experienced collectors. Klepacki had collected more than 3,500 unique models from all over the world, which was officially recorded in the Book of Records. In his house, you can see ironing presses from India over 1.5 feet long, huge industrial irons weighing up to 50 pounds from Germany, as well as tiny souvenir pieces that were once given to textile factory workers. Now, every week, new visitors come to Jakov's house: school children, tourists, journalists, and even engineers who study the evolution of household appliances through his collection of thousands of items. For Klepacki himself, every addition to the collection is a real event. He personally gives tours, explains how people managed ironing in different eras, and demonstrates how unusual models work. He regularly dusts all the exhibits, oils them, and checks to make sure that not a single part has rusted. This is how a simple hobby grew into a world-class achievement, inspiring many to open their own unique mini-museums at home. But among all these incredible records, there is still room for truly shocking achievements that are not about technology but about the human body. For example, the story of a woman who was able to grow her hair longer than the door in her own home. How her hair grew to a length of 20 feet. When Guinness began recording the strangest human achievements, no one could have imagined that the list would one day include a record related to the most ordinary hairstyle. But it was exactly this kind of record that was set by a woman from China named Xi Jinping at the turn of the 1990s and 2000s. By the time representatives from the Guinness Book arrived, her hair was already trailing along the floor across the entire length of the room and had reached an incredible mark almost 20 feet from roots to tips. Every year, her hair grew about 6 to 7 inches longer, and she had to wear it wrapped in several layers around her shoulders or gather it into a giant bun so it wouldn't get in the way while walking around the house. Taking care of such a hairstyle took up most of her life. Xu spent at least 2 hours washing her hair each time, using almost half a bottle of special shampoo that her relatives sent her from different provinces. After that, she had to dry her hair in the wind and straighten each strand with a wooden comb nearly 2 feet long. For a regular walk to the market, the woman would wrap her hair around her waist and secure it with a wide ribbon so that the strands wouldn't pick up dust from the ground. When she needed to travel to the capital for the official record registration, she had to pack her hair into a special bag which was sewn by a local tailor from heavy canvas. Otherwise, her hair simply wouldn't fit inside a regular car. On the day of the measurements, not only Guinness experts, but also dozens of journalists and neighbors gathered to witness the remarkable event. Her hair was carefully laid out along a long wooden ruler which had been specially assembled from 2 sections for this purpose, and the tip was secured with a heavy silk ribbon so that the wind wouldn't interfere with the measurements. The official length exceeded 20 feet, and after that, Xu became a local celebrity. Her photos appeared in newspapers and on television all over the world. Despite the inconvenience, the woman did not cut a single inch. All of her hair remained intact and healthy. She received letters from hairdressers and cosmetic brands offering her any amount of money for a strand just a few feet long, but Xu always refused. Her hair became her main talisman. Even now, years later, she continues to care for her record, and tourists come to her city specifically to take photos with her legendary hairstyle in the background. Such a personal record shows that you can amaze the whole world not only with strength or courage, but also with patience, perseverance, and a touch of luck in your genes.